Hello again and welcome. Michael Pizzolla here. I'd like to welcome you to this value capping video. And I'm calling this 3 lessons from the 2021 Kentucky Derby. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Pizzolla. I am the author of the best-selling handicapping book, Handicapping Magic, co-author of the classic Pace Makes the Race. I'm the creator of the original online racing forum and creator of the Value Capper software. And I help handicappers adapt to the modern game by adopting a value-oriented approach. And it's an important thing, and it's been my mission for about the past 12 years out of my 30 plus years of writing and talking about this great game. And to put it in context, the approach I recommend is called the value capping framework, which is to bet horses you like that the public shouldn't. And preferably, you want to bet those horses that are running against vulnerable favorites or short-priced horses. Then you wait for your price and you let the bet make you. Or have a felt sense before you bet. That's very important part of the process. If you want to learn more about it, go over to ValueCapper.com. I did an entire 4-video course. It's absolutely free. Put in your first name and email. You know the drill. Every couple of days you'll get a new video on value capping. And I think no matter if you use software or whatever approach you take, I think you'll find it helpful. Okay, so what are the lessons that we can take away, again, from this value capping context, from the 2021 Derby? And I can hear the comments now. Well, one thing, Pizzolla, one lesson I learned, I'm not listening to you about your picks or Medina's Spirit. You didn't mention Medina's Spirit. Yeah. That's why I start every video that I do, every rant that I do about an upcoming Derby prep or Triple Crown race or Breeders' Cup. This is not about touting what I do. There are plenty of those videos. And I don't mean to be critical, but I don't see many follow-ups like, oh boy, did I miss that race? And they come across with such certainty when they're talking about the race. And this is the first lesson. And it's a lesson you can apply just about anything. But let's talk about it in the context of the Derby. Look, numbers, systems, spot plays, software. These are not crystal balls, okay? These are estimations of what may happen in the race. Now, you can only make a certain accuracy of get a certain degree of accuracy in making numbers. You can be off and which running line you select to evaluate the horse in the race. But the idea that these things can absolutely predict the outcome of the race is a pipe dream, okay? I'll give you an example of this. I got a comment, and a long comment, on the Kentucky Derby video where I speculated, honestly, I said one possibility was that because of the long battle they had in the bluegrass, Essential Quality and Highly Motivated may regress a bit in form, okay? And this fellow, who I know from correspondence, he is a very sharp handicapper, no doubt about it, and I don't mean to be having a go, but the come from, the approach was, hey Michael, listen, I'll tell you why Highly Motivated won't regress. Here's why. And he went on to a very lucid explanation of Chad Brown's training methods. Now look, I've only specialized in one area, and that's value betting based primarily on pace numbers. So I haven't made a study of trainers. I probably wouldn't recognize Chad Brown if I met him on the street. Charlie Brown probably I would recognize. But the tone was, this is what's going to happen. Okay? So because we can't predict with certainty, we have to base our handicapping, value capping on possibilities. Now, this brings us to decisions. In every race, there will be decisions to be made. I tell my wizards, which is like what I call those who have the black magic software or the value cappers software, that handicapping is basically done by the software. It does all the hard number crunching. Yeah, you might make a tweak here and there, but that's when the real work begins, after all the number crunching is done. And I find that many handicappers, you know, they have whatever method or system or software that they use. They get a bunch of numbers, as here's the top, here's the, and let's go to the windows. But in actuality, if we get into a more nuanced look at the races, there are always decisions in the race, and this may seem obvious to you, but the more decisions you have to make, the more yes, no, will this regress, will this happen, the riskier the bet is. Now in the Derby, I made 3 decisions. The first, decisions, possibilities, that given their long battle in the bluegrass, that essential quality and highly motivated might regress a little bit, might decline. Now, as it turned out, essential quality didn't run to the expectations because I had him, you know, on top of my line and so forth. And look, he finished in the money, he finished 4th. I mean, that's no mean feat in the Kentucky Derby. And highly motivated, quite frankly, just didn't run well. Now, why? I don't know. Is essential quality that much better? Was he in better condition? Don't know. But before the race, this was one of the decisions I had to make. Second, I speculated, projected that early pressure would develop in the race, favoring the closing horses. Look, I may say horses in this video. I know they're colts. Thanks for that. Yeah, I know. If I slip and say horses, please bear with me. Now, as it turned out, Medina Spirit got the lead and wired the field. Now, after the fact, it's very easy. Well, you know, Bob Baffert saw that in one of his previous races, the horses wouldn't go by him, so he said, what the heck, you know, Senor Velasquez, take him to the lead. And I don't know. But what I do know is this. Here is the acupressure screen, which projects the shape of the race, the pace projection, the position projection, all of that. And this is what I presented in the Derby video. And you'll notice an interesting thing, that it projected Rock Your World to have the lead at the first call. And it projected Medina Spirit right behind him, and then Medina Spirit maybe making a little move to the second call. It's not quite turn time. It's a little more complicated than that. But that was one approach. Well, as it turned out, Rock Your World got off a step slow and was jostled at the start, and that left Medina Spirit with the lead. Now, that also may have affected how the race was run and how it shaped up. Now, look, this is part ability of the horse, part racing luck, part of what the jockey was told to do or what he senses or she senses in the moment. And you can't tell any of that. I mean, a horse comes from one side and bumps and jostles and throws you off stride. And if you're an early runner, that can cost you position, which you may need. There are some horses whose style is they only run well. Their good races are all wire to wire. And if the horse doesn't get the lead, he may not run very well. So this is all part of the uncertainty and randomness that we have to factor in. Now, if you draw a line through Rock Your World because he didn't get off to a good start, and let's put aside the 15 post position, that leaves Medina Spirit on the lead, projected on the lead. Now, why didn't you, Michael, bet him in that case? Well, because I thought, based on my projection, there would be pressure in the race. The third decision I had to make in the race was that one of the colts with poorer numbers, and we'll get to that, would not sharply improve. And I specifically mentioned the Santa Anita Derby. Now, I gave, in my numbers, master pace numbers, I did not give the Santa Anita Derby a very good number, okay? Now, others did, and I listened to Andy Beyer, who is, I love Andy Beyer. He was instrumental in getting the original online racing forum, which in those days was called the Handicappers Daily Racing Forum. We were the first ones who he permitted to publish his numbers in something other than the printed racing forum. As I recall, he was pretty high on Medina Spirit. And bravo, because he had a much better number on that race than I gave the Santa Anita Derby. Now, does that mean I was wrong? No. There are a lot of ways to look at it. Look, in the Derby, in this Derby, there were 19 colts. Now, they're at different points in their form cycle, and they're all 3-year-olds who have the ability to improve greatly. Now, as it turned out, the other way to look at it was that the colt that really improved was Medina Spirit. Yeah, because if you say, well, you're obviously wrong about that number in the Santa Anita Derby, and I might have been. That number may have been off. However, you can't then turn around and say, well, these other ratings, pointing to this race as a good race. Well, then what happened to Rock Your World? I mean, it's not as if he got off to a little slow start and then was in contention. He wasn't. So is it true that Rock Your World just ran to his number and Medina Spirit moved forward? Sure, that's just as possible. You see, this gets back to the certainty thing. You can't be certain about. Now, after the race, we can be certain. Hey, you moron, Rock Your World got off to a bad start. Otherwise, they would have finished 1-2, and Medina Spirit was an obvious horse. And so easy after the race. I took the risk, and I mentioned it in the Kentucky Derby video that, look, who knows whether that Santa Anita Derby number, which is admittedly, I made it a fairly low number, several lengths behind the rest of the colts, and I didn't know whether that would improve. Now, given those decisions, okay, I bet Obesos at 40-1, and I was very confident that I would get my price. I wasn't confident that he ran. Did not run a bad race. He was coming at the end, but he had too much ground to make up. He finished 5th. Good showing. And I bet that in advance. Actually, bet that the day before. I don't like to do that. I like to see the board. I didn't see the odds changing very much, especially at those kinds of odds. So I was confident enough. I didn't know what they would do with the others, specifically Mandaloun. The next day, when I saw Mandaloun off at 25-1, I made a slightly smaller bet on that colt, and boy, that was close at 25-1, 26-1. Now, obviously, I didn't cash a ticket in the Derby, but I want to make the distinction that I did not bet them just because they were long shots, just because of the price. I mean, heck, there's so much price in the Derby. Now, any Derby, just about, right? I mean, these colts had something going for them. Now, someone asked me, hey, do you really bet these races? Well, yeah. Here's the ticket I took, the win ticket I took on Obesos, the 6 horse, and I made that at 8:45 in the morning the day before, the Friday before. I mentioned, because I knew I was going to get the odds on it, I mentioned that I was going to take an exacta box with Hot Rod Charlie, the 6 and the 9, and then take a straight exacta because they ran against each other, and I thought the possibility they could reverse, and that would be a nice score. I took also a straight exacta with the 6 and 9. I also said I was going to take trifecta boxes, one using Essential Quality and Highly Motivated, the 14 and the 17, and there is that ticket with Essential Quality and Highly Motivated in there, along with Hot Rod Charlie and Obesos. And then I took one without. Okay, so those two, along with Midnight Bourbon and Mandaloon. Now, wasn't too far off. Okay, so by the way, people always ask about tickets and all the rest, and in my private coaching group, the Wizards Forum, I'll share some of that with them. But in a public forum, it's almost rude. It's like, hey, look what I did. Okay. But here I'm showing you that I didn't cash a ticket in the Derby. Now, I could easily show you, if you look at the Rant before the Derby, the one on the Bluegrass and the Lexington. In the Lexington, I mentioned, bet King Fury, and I don't know, I think I said 15 to 1, so, a long price. As it turned out, he paid 38 and change, and this little bet, $30 win bet, came back $576. I did a ham-handed approach to exactas because I didn't have a good feel about what the structure would be, so I took a box with everything for $1 because I was a little confused on the exacting structure. Not confused, but I didn't have a strong sense. And that $1 exacta came back almost $220, $219 and change. So if we look at what I showed you right off the top of the Kentucky Derby video, there was Essential Quality sitting on top, and then there was a group of other colts: Hot Rod Charlie, Highly Motivated, Obesos, Midnight Bourbon, and Mandaloon. Now just take a look at that. Okay, Mandaloon, who's in the arc, above random, that is, Hot Rod Charlie, Essential Quality, Obesos, and Midnight Bourbon. Now, obviously I took the win bet on the basis that Essential Quality and Highly Motivated may decline, and I favored Obesos because of the close that he made, the fractions that he had, and so forth. But then Mandaloon, if you look over on the right side, you'll see something called a VCP. That is what the Value Capper software, and we worked a long time on that, what kind of fair or premium overlay you might look for in your bet to offset the position on the line, any kind of negative factors or anti-value factors, taking into account anything extra they may have, like a good close in a highly pressured race, or a pattern that indicates coming to a race. And if you notice, there are only two of the colts whose actual board odds were higher than the value capping price, and that is Obesos, who was 17 to 1. In my opinion, would have been a premium overlay. I think I may have said 20 to 1 in the video, but hey, it went off at 40 to 1. And interestingly, Mandaloon, who the Value Capper software said 25 to 1 would be a good price, and went off at almost exactly that, at 26 to 1, and missed by half a length. So, and if you notice, those are the only two colts in there that were equal to or above their Value Capper price. So, I'm heartened when I see things like this. Okay, and then how to put these results into context. Look, on any other day, this would be the 12th race at Churchill, not the 147th running of the Kentucky Derby and presented by whatever corporate sponsor is presenting it. I probably should refer to that, but I can't. 2021 Derby. All of the hoopla, all of the media attention, all of that. And look, I'm a racing fan on these big days, okay? But I have to put that aside when I'm doing my day-to-day work. When I'm working on a $12,500 claimer at Penn National and I'm applying these same principles of value capping, you don't get paid extra because the race is big. Yeah, you may have bragging rights, and all of your friends who don't regularly play the races, they say, "Hey, did you have the Derby?" That's the first thing they'll say, and you know that's a normal and natural thing. So I make an exception on these big days, and I make these so-called recreational bets or secondary bets. Don't like to do that too much. It's not a great habit to get into. Listen to me. Any other day, a race that messy, a race with 19 3-year-olds, lightly raced for the most part, champions in some part, boy, it would be such a quick pass. Or as I did a secondary bet on the horses that I thought had a shot at a price, Obesos and Mandaloun. My point about this is that to be successful, you must look at long-term results. A part of that in this game of betting the horses, you must be adequately capitalized. There's no getting around that. And the money's can't be money that you're worried about to pay a home repair bill or a car repair bill or a mortgage, or it's got to be absolutely discretionary. And then on top of that, especially if you're betting longer priced horses, okay, you bet a small percentage of that bankroll. Then you've got to be patient. Look, first to tell you, I used to win a whole bunch of races, and I win fewer races now. Well, gee, Michael, maybe it's old age coming on. No. No. There are a couple of reasons. Back in the day, I was with a pace group. Many of you know what I'm talking about. I just have the fondest memories of that group of fellows. It was really a fun time. And we were developing these incremental fractional numbers and compounding them and all. And I was in at the very beginning of that. A charter member, as they call me, and I was very honored. And a couple of things. We were, one of the mantras that were given is that, like, any winner is an overlay. And I was kind of steeped in that. The other thing is because these numbers that we were using were not very available. I mean, it was just our small group, and we'd have a group of people who would have some software that we designed to generate those numbers, and but it was a very, very small thing. So you'd find a horse with a great pace advantage and go off and pay, $18. Now, because of this thing called the internet, which I think is going to be big someday, you don't see those kind of mismatches in prices. So this is what I'm talking about, adopting to the modern game. The public has gotten very, very good. If you look at the percentage of winning favorites, and we've done a lot of research on that, the public is only getting better. So this is why patience is required in this approach. This is the biggest change in the game, is the proliferation of good information. Now, is some information better than others? Sure. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't think my numbers were the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, I think anyone who makes numbers feels that way. But those numbers are not crystal balls, and you're playing against a public who is doing a very good job. I remember one day at Aqueduct, towards the end of the meet, not too long ago, I think there was a streak of like 7 straight favorites that won. I think the longest price among them were $6 or $7. It's gotten our opponent, if you will, the public, has gotten very, very good. And so to overcome that, we have to be patient. We have to wait for our spots. We have to wait for those spots where maybe the public is over-betting a vulnerable favorite, and we find a horse that we like has maybe got a good number, second or third back, or maybe further back in his past performances, maybe coming to a race. So we kind of like him. The public shouldn't. And you wait. And betting that horse, when he may not have your tippity-top numbers, or your tippity-top rating, or your tippity-top on the odds line, you get compensated by the price, especially if you're betting against a vulnerable favorite. But listen, this is why, this changing game is why I advocate a value approach. And this is what I call value capping. Now look, what I just described for you, it's not for everyone. It requires patience and discipline. And that's something very few of us really like. Oh, good, I've got to be patient and lose races sometimes. And by the way, when I say I lose more races than I used to, my ROI has gone up dramatically. And this is the way I have found for the small bettor, to approach the game, even a large bettor, to approach the game in a way that combats that, this value-oriented approach. But as I said, patience and discipline isn't something we really like, right? I mean, everyone knows if you want to get your body healthier and maybe in a little, maybe lose a few pounds, that you should watch your nutrition, you should, take a walk, go for a jog. We all know that. And that it takes time to do it properly. It takes time. No. What do we want? Take a pill, wake up tomorrow, and you're 15 pounds lighter and you've got a six-pack. All right? Or women have all their muscles are toned and they've lost whatever they wanted to lose in terms of weight. That's what we want. In golf, I mean, the way to do it, when I got down to be a scratch golfer, I was spending an hour and a half a day chipping and putting and making 100 5-foot putts. It's hard work. And, the swing mechanics and all of that. And sure, it's hard work. But what do we want? The golfing industry, these fellows out there, I'll show you one tip. Just move your hands in a certain different way and you'll be hitting 320 yard drives, no matter how old you are or if you have arthritis, whatever. You understand? I mean, there are a lot of, not a lot. Some people are attracted to this game as kind of a get-rich-quick thing, and there are people out there who play into that, who say, look, get my system, get my this, get my that, and then, it's easy street to riches. Well, that's like that diet pill that doesn't exist. And that's like that golf tip that doesn't make you hit 320-yard drives. Okay? Software, methods, any of that is a tool. And at the end of the handicapping, no matter how beautifully those numbers are crunched, then comes the challenging part of assessing the horse's chances, the risks involved, and whether you are getting adequately compensated. So I've gone on long enough. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you'll get some insights into your own game from this video. And I will see you in just a few days on the Preakness Value Capping Rant. See you then.